Lavender Town. Pokémon, as we all know, is one of the most popular video game franchises of all time, but in 1996 when Red vs. Green came out, the people of Japan were not so happy with the game because of how it had been causing strange behavior in children who played the game, including a disturbing number of them taking their own lives. These specific instances of strange behavior began to happen when children reached the stage called Lavender Town. Apparently, the music in this extremely creepy area of the game contained a high-pitched piercing noise that only children could hear with their underdeveloped sensitive ears. 100 Japanese children from the ages of 10 to 15 jumped to their deaths, hung themselves, and mutilated themselves a couple of days following the release of Pokémon Red vs. Green, in order to escape the sound driving them insane. The theory suggests that because our ability to hear high-pitched tones diminishes as we age, young children are especially susceptible to the Lavender Town curse. Some versions of the urban legend say the game's director, Satoshi Tajiri, explicitly wanted the tone in the red version of the game to annoy children who picked it over the green version. The urban legend also offers up a long explanation for Satori's supposed aversion to the color red, thanks to violent encounters with school bullies. Almost every version of the urban legend accuses Nintendo of covering up any evidence of any of this happening to protect the Pokemon franchise's innocence and popularity. The legend concludes that Nintendo altered the Lavender Town music for the English release of Pokémon Red vs. Blue, which is true. The North American version of Lavender Town definitely sounds a bit less harsh and shrill than Japan's, though it's not that all unusual for a game's music compositions to change when it's been localized for markets outside of Japan. After researching this theory, I can't find any solid evidence of this actually happening around the time of the game's release. However, there is a true story of the Pokémon franchise harming children.
An investigation is underway in Japan into why more than 600 children suffered from convulsions and vomiting after watching a television cartoon program. It's thought that bright flashing lights in the cartoon, Pocket Monsters, were to blame. Andrew Burrows reports.
Almost every Japanese child knows Pocket Monsters and its star Pakucho. They play the Nintendo computer game. They even sing the Pocket Monsters song.
In 1997, an anime based on the franchise called Computer Soldier Porygon made headlines when flashing images induced seizures in over 600 Japanese children. Although most of the kids were okay, some of them had to be hospitalized and the Pokemon anime was pulled off air for a few months. This so-called Pokemon shock provided a solid groundwork for the Lavender Town myth. After all, what's more sinister than a popular children's TV show broadcasting images or music capable of harming children without even touching them? Plus, Lavender Town's unusually creepy atmosphere, the dead Pokemon, the haunted tower, the mother Marowak that died defending her child, and the music that sounds like a clock ticking its way down to an inevitable end. The rest practically writes itself. Bloodborne. You are drinking menstrual blood. Now, this is a pretty wild one that I'm sure most of you guys haven't heard of before because Bloodborne is one of my favorite video games of all time. I've beaten it multiple times and gotten every ending, but I've never heard of this theory. Originally posted on Reddit by user Lucatil Knight, he brought up the fact that the Healing Church sought specific women to get their blood from. From the description of Blood of Adela, the Healing Church nuns are chosen for their merit as vessels for blood and groomed as blood saints. You only get blood vials from the women in the game like Ariana, Loska, and Sister Adela. It also seems like something was going on with the women of Canehurst, and Ariana stops giving you blood vials when she starts feeling sick because she's pregnant.
It can't be. This is a nightmare.
There are also ties to the moon in the game, which is tied to monthly cycles, and a place called Mensis. Other players have noted that you can't get vials from elderly women in the game who would not be able to produce menstrual blood due to the onset of menopause. Not to mention, the game and the lore itself is full of references to menstruation. There's a boss called the Mensis Brain, an item called the Mensis Cage, and an area called Nightmare of Mensis. Mensis, of course, sounds awfully like menses, the Latin word for menstruation. This is a pretty nasty one. The item called bloodstone shards you use in the game to upgrade your weapons closely resemble used tampons. I have never thought about this until I read this theory, but now looking at it, you kinda see a resemblance and it's pretty disgusting. And there's also rare blood rocks. Finally, the healing church picks out particular women to be vessels of blood as blood saints. So yeah, this theory in my opinion, while pretty gross, honestly really fits the vibe of Bloodborne and its narrative, and it does make a lot of sense, so I would not be surprised if this really was what the creators had in mind when they were writing the story. Companion cubes are full of dead bodies, and GLaDOS is your mother, a gagged and bound woman. The weighted companion cube from Portal was an inanimate object with pink hearts on it that helped you solve puzzles, press buttons, and open doors. It only appeared for a very brief period in the first Portal game, but the fanbase has since fallen completely in love with it. There's just something endearing about a companion cube in such a solitary game as Portal. It felt like a friend, which made it all the more tragic when you're forced to throw it into a furnace in order to advance.
Please escort your companion cube to the Aperture Science Emergency Intelligence Incinerator. You euthanized your faithful companion cube more quickly than any test subject on record. Congratulations.
Everyone hesitated, but we couldn't put a finger on why. After all, it's just an item, right? The companion cube has since become an iconic symbol of the popular series, reflecting in Portal's lucrative merchandise. But what if there was more to this painted cube than we realized? One fan theory suggests that the companion cubes are weighted because they contain the dead or dying bodies of failed test subjects. The name of the achievement you get when you incinerate the cube is fratricide. Fratricide meaning one that murders or kills his own brother or sister or an individual, just as the previous likely thousands of test subjects are your brethren. Also, the cube is easily large enough to fit a human inside. Eerily, GLaDOS tells Shell the companion cube can't talk, and if it ever does, it should be ignored, which would seem to imply they both can talk and should be listened to. Doug Ratman scribbles all over the walls of Aperture, which includes pictures of cubes glued over the heads of people, are usually dismissed as crazy rants, unless those people were actually put into the cubes. In Portal 2, GLaDOS even mocks Shell by saying it was about to say "I love you" and notes, they are sentient of course, we just have a lot of them. And now while we're talking about her, have you ever actually gotten a good look at GLaDOS? Initially, she looks like a vacuum cleaner flipped upside down, just a bunch of cables and gears. But if you look closer, she kind of looks like a human being flipped upside down. Jeremy Bennett, the game's art director, says this was actually intentional. Eventually, we settled on a huge mechanical device with a delicate robotic figure dangling out of it, which successfully conveys both GLaDOS's raw power and her femininity. Some people think she looks more like a woman who has been bound and gagged. Take a look at this image above and tell me GLaDOS doesn't look bizarrely similar to the woman on the right. Killswitch. Killswitch was a game supposedly created by Carvina Corporation in 1989. The game had a unique feature in it that it could only be played once. Once you either died or finished the game, it erased itself completely, rendering you unable to continue or play the game on the other character. The characters were Porto, who was a young girl, and Gast, an invisible demon. The demon is completely invisible, meaning that not even you, the player, can see him on the screen. As a result, not a single gamer has recorded even having beaten the game with Gast. Only 5,000 copies of the game were ever made, according to the story. For those wondering about Porto's story, it went something like this. Porto wakes up in a dark area with wounds on her elbows and no idea how she arrived there. As she tries to find a way out of this dark, creepy place, she discovers that it's an old coal mine she used to work in. The mine had been shut down and it's now populated by demons, dead foremen, coal golems, and even inspectors from the company known as Sovotic. Porto continues exploring the mine, though she has more to worry about than just these threats mentioned above. Her size tends to change randomly, hindering her movements, in some cases, and even helping her out of others. There is no way to control this change in her size, so she simply has to hope that the change she needs will occur when she needs it to. The reason for the mine's shutdown, she discovers, is because the workers were ordered to increase production. They proceeded to blame the poor output on equipment malfunctions, which led Sovotic to send out inspectors. These inspectors had a unique way of encouraging the miners to increase the coal output, namely by stabbing sharp knives into the miners' joints whenever production slowed. The Fires of the Earth, it is unknown what this is, but it is assumed assumed to be demons similar to Ghast, proceeded to awaken the hearts of the machines in the mines in order to allegedly defend the miners. The sentient machines proceeded to drive the men from Zvotic mad, and they vanished into the mine. The machines proved to be indiscriminate. However, they proceeded to destroy the miners that they were supposedly going to protect. Porto was knocked into a chasm at this time, and the fumes she inhaled inside the chasm are what caused her size to fluctuate. She obtains a tape recorder that reveals the mine's story and begins crawling out of the mine. Then the screen goes white, ending the game. Gamers who demanded that more copies of the game be released so they might attempt to beat Ghast's story were disappointed by a press sent out by Kavina in 1990. They state, "Killswitch was designed to be a unique playing experience. Like reality, it is unrepeatable, irretrievable, and illogical. One might even say ineffable. Death is final. Death is complete. The fates of Porto and her beloved Ghast are as unknowable as our own. It is the desire of the Kavina Corporation that this be so, and we ask our customers to respect that desire. Rest assured, Kavina will continue to provide the highest quality of games to the West, and that Killswitch is merely one among our many wonders." Their use of the word beloved caught gamers by surprise, as Ghast hadn't appeared anywhere in Porto's storyline. Though players rushed out to get their hands on more copies of the game in order to figure out what Kavina meant, they were in for only disappointment. No copies were to be found anywhere. None were to be found, that is, until 2005, when a sealed copy of the game appeared on eBay, sold for a whopping $733,000. The man who bought the game, Yamoto Ryuichi, stated his intention to record the gameplay footage, but only one video ever emerged. This video showed Mr. Ryuichi sitting in the character screen, crying. It has since vanished from the internet as surely as the game deleted itself. To be completely honest, this is a pretty hard one to say if this theory is actually true or not. While there are some videos on the internet now that supposedly show footage of the game, all of the footage I found on the game has pretty much shown to be fake. Also, we have yet to find Mr. Ryuichi or any other gamer who has actually played this game. As a result of the sheer lack of evidence that this game even exists, I'm gonna have to say this is pretty much just a myth. Mass Effect 3 Indoctrination Theory. Mass Effect is one of my personal favorite game franchises of all time, but the end to Mass Effect 3 upset a lot of people. Basically, Commander Shepard is presented with three options to end the Reaper threat: control the Reapers and rule the galaxy, Shepard dies; synthesis, combine everyone with the Reapers, or destroy the Reapers, Shepard also dies. This got under the skin of fans, who felt it was a pretty bad way to end the series. But now, Mass Effect fans have come up with a very complex theory as to why Shepard is presented with these unusual choices at the end of the game. In essence, during his many showdowns with the Reapers across all three games, Shepard is slowly placed under the Reapers' mind control abilities in a process called Indoctrination, and the ending of Mass Effect 3 is their final attempts to assimilate Shepard. Before the end of 3, Shepard is blasted with a powerful beam of Reaper energy. The theory says that everything afterwards is the Reapers invading Shepard's mind. After the blast, the world appears to be fuzzy, like a dream. This would mean the ending is actually just a hallucination, and the battle taking place after entering the Citadel only takes place in his mind. The game itself and many of the Mass Effect novels go into great detail about indoctrination and how subtly it can affect an individual, sometimes taking years before their mind is totally consumed. According to the theory, at the end of Mass Effect 3, the Reapers use their mind control to trick Shepard and the player into false choices, all three of which are an apparent win for the bad guys. Control means that Shepard controls the Reapers when it's the only other way around. Synthesis means that the Reapers get to bond with everything in the galaxy, and there's still destruction. That means Shepard destroys the Reapers, but he also dies, still leading to a virtual Reaper victory. The indoctrination theory explains the strange tone at the end of the game, why the choice to rule the galaxy with the Reapers is coded blue for good, and the choice to destroy them is coded red for evil. I definitely remember being very disappointed with the end of Mass Effect 3, but as we saw, there was a reveal trailer for a new game, which I'm hoping is going to be kind of a reboot of the franchise and continue the story, because I hope that we do get a better game after the disaster, which was Mass Effect Andromeda. Super disappointed with that game as well, so yeah, pretty interesting theory. Hopefully the next game's good. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask and the 5 Stages of Grief. Clocktown is the main area of Majora's Mask where you spend most of your time and where you always end up when you loop back in time. It's also the section of the game that represents the first stage of grief, denial. The citizens of Clocktown refuse to believe that the moon will actually fall and crush their town. They simply brush off the possibility, despite the moon getting closer and closer by each day. Eventually, however, they are forced to acknowledge the truth and end up fleeing. Anger. Woodfall is home to the first temple of the game. It symbolizes anger, the second stage of grief. The Deku King is angry that his daughter has gone missing, and he believes that the monkey is at its fault. Instead of listening to the monkey's story or spending his time looking for the daughter, he allows his anger to control him. Bargaining. Snowhead is representative of the third stage of grief, bargaining. Darmani's ghost begs to be brought back to life. He desperately wants to live, and he wants magic to reverse his death. Depression. Depression is the fourth stage of grief, which is represented by the Great Bay. Lulu has isolated herself after the loss of her eggs. Her misery leaves her completely despondent until Link, as Miyuku Zora Link, plays her the new wave bossa nova song. Acceptance. Ikana Valley is a symbol of acceptance, the final stage of grief. It is quite literally the land of death. The light arrows that Link uses to combat Garo's darkness in the boss battle further symbolizes the overcoming of the depths of depression and moving on. Majora's Mask is often considered to be the darkest of all the Zelda games. This examination of it, however, shows that the progression of grief really just seals the deal on that title. It certainly is an interesting way of analyzing the game, and I haven't been able to look at Majora's Mask the same since I read this theory. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and if you did enjoy, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe for more videos like this. I put a lot of time, effort, and research into this video, making sure that I can make it the best quality that I could for you guys, so I would really appreciate that. Once again, all of the links to the sources I used for this video will be in the description. Also, make sure to leave a comment letting me know what your favorite theory here was, and if I missed any that you have heard of that you wish were in the video. If you have an idea for a future topic for me to cover in one of these style videos, join the Discord and leave it in the video suggestion section. Anyway, thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.